What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners. This is episode 155, and today I've got Taylor Essex via Skype. You can probably see him if you're watching on YouTube. Hi, Taylor. Thanks for coming on the Wrestling with Johners podcast. How are you today?
No, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, I'm really good. To be fair, it's getting nicer. It was a bit horrible and grey and depressing last week, and today it's nice, and apparently Monday's meant to be really nice as well.
It's going to be, I think a nice weekend, warmer weather next week. Today reminded me of what we had a few weeks ago when we had our little heat wave, but it has been very, very nice today. Very, very nice. But we spoke a bit off air. Now, I was under the presumption that you haven't wrestled for a while, maybe pre-lockdown. So that probably would have been a good 6 or so months ago. But you've actually recently had a match, haven't you? So you were telling me off air that you have had a match in the last couple of weeks. Tell us a bit about that, because I think that's probably one of the first promotions to kind of, reopen or have a wrestling show since the lockdown, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those. It was one of those things. Like the guy who owns the promotion, he owns the pub, so he owns the land that the show took place on. Everything was social distanced. It was sort of those things, and it was really good. We have how many matches? I think 4 matches. So a team of like 8 people. Again, we all got like COVID tested and all that sort of stuff beforehand. And at first, I was a bit worried that it was going to be different, but as soon as we was back, it was like we was back. You know, everyone backstage was like how everyone is. Like I hadn't seen these people in 6 months, and as much as I loved the wrestling, it was so good to see everyone else as well. Like, I was expecting to be more hyped about the wrestling, but by the time I got there and finished the show, I was just more hyped to be seeing everyone like chilling with like Brett and Joe and all these sorts of guys again. So
was that a singles match for yourself then?
Yeah, I faced Joe Lando. So I think that's our first singles match our first singles match ever. We've wrestled each other a bunch and tagged a bunch, like in tag matches, and we've tagged with each other and faced each other. But that was our first proper singles. So yeah, I definitely one of those things I want to get that match down on like a show with wrestling fans, not just casual fans that were just there to enjoy the sort of the fun day that they planned out.
Yeah, and what was the last match you had pre-lockdown then, Taylor? Because it probably was dating back to maybe February or March. Can you remember what your last match was?
Yeah, it was March 15th, and it was the day myself and Toreno won the World War Wrestling Tag Titles. It was that match against the Hitset, which is... I'm very happy that was the last match, to be fair, because I was talking to Jack about it, and I was like, it would have been so... At least it was a really climactic last match.
Yeah.
Because other people was like, I just had like some throwaway match, or just some random match somewhere in some like little hall. And our one was like one of the biggest shows we've done, winning the belts. So that was amazing to have as the last match. Obviously, no one wanted to... We didn't know it was going to be the last match for a while, but...
Yeah. But it's certainly one to remember anyway, and winning the tag titles at World War Wrestling, certainly very memorable. But when did you and Jack Toreno get together as the Rebellion then? So when was the Rebellion born? When did you two first meet and then decide to create this fabulous tag team?
So originally, I started at Dropkicks 4 years ago in February. I started at Dropkicks. I'd trained a little bit elsewhere, but I never count that as like into my training because I was sort of there really, really on and off. But yeah, and then Jack showed up in September, so I'd been there a little bit. I think I had like 1 or 2 matches, and I just went up and spoke to him at training because everyone looks at Jack and they're a bit like standoffish at first. I'd say with Toreno, like you see Toreno and everyone's just a bit like he's like this little like 5 foot something hench little punk geezer, and no one's like, so many people are wary of him. I was like, I'll train with him. I'll go over to him. That was literally it. We started talking like that, and then we was booked in a storyline against each other, and the whole idea was that everything I'd done the year before, Jack done that year.
Right.
So like he won the Rumble. I won Dropkicks had this idea of they did the 30-man Rumble sort of thing. They literally, it was quite cool. They mirrored up Royal Rumble Day and WrestleMania Day with shows and literally done the same thing, which was quite like proper 30-man Rumbles. So the first year we done it, I won it, and went on to, I didn't win the match, but I did get the belt eventually. And then Jack won it the following year from number 1, and then like called me out at the end of the show. and then we had the match there, and we had like he won the belt, and it was all like so we feuded a bit after that, and then I teamed with him, the whole can't beat him, join him sort of thing, and then that was literally like a Dropkicks storyline. We fought, and then we thought, we was having fun. We were supposed to split up. We were supposed to do like I was supposed to turn on him again, as in it was all like a big like ruse to get one up on him. But then it was just working so well that we was like, no, let's take this elsewhere. Let's get matching gear. Let's promote. And then after a while, after about 6-7 months, all of our bookings turned into tag bookings, and it was like something's really going well here. And all the shows we were getting, the bigger shows we were getting, was always tags. So we just rolling with it, sort of thing. That's how I met Jack.
Yeah,
how it all started.
Yeah, and I mean, we spoke a bit off air. You started wrestling 4 years ago, this past February, is that right? So about 4.5 years ago, and your kind of rebellion relationship with Jack Toreno has kind of been the majority of that, I would say. And you've had quite a bit of success, I think, certainly last year and this year. You won the DOA tag team titles with Jack, the World War Wrestling tag titles with Jack, the match you mentioned, the very last match before lockdown, of course. So quite a bit of success there in a short space of time. Certainly with DOA and World War Wrestling, two pretty good promotions on the kind of the UK wrestling scene. You're obviously pretty proud to have won those tag titles with Jack for those two groups.
Oh, that was amazing. To be fair, like the first time we won the DOA tag titles on the first night of being in DOA, which was really cool. I'd wrestled there before, like a year prior, and I had a triple threat with Tim Lee and Dexter, and it's sort of like that was the one-off booking, and I was like really grateful for it. But part of me was like, I didn't impress enough to come back and all that sort of thing. So, but then when we got the message about coming down, we was like, oh cool, we'll see what we can do. Let's get some decent match footage of us, because we were told us wrestling the Ruckers, who like are really good. I remember I watched them doing some of the IPW stuff and things. And then we get there, and the promoter's like, "Oh, you boys are winning the tag titles." And I was like, "Excuse me." And then he goes, "Yeah, you've got 4 minutes." And I was like, first night in the promotion, squashing the undefeated tag champions. It was really like, I was like, "Oh, this is." And then to top it all off, Will Ospreay shows up and just watches the show. And then I'm sitting there,
no pressure.
Yeah, and I'm like, so yeah, that kicked us off to an amazing start. And then from there, it was only like the heat was insane, as in, because they generally had never seen us before, and then we just like shit on the best tag team sort of thing, like straight away just come in and took the belts. And we teamed with Alec and Ashley Dunn, and we had Danny Darko as well. So we had this little like power trip stable sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really fun. And then obviously we won them. We had them for over a year, and then we won them back again recently. So and obviously pre-lockdown. And that's another really cool thing, is that they've both World War Wrestling and DOA have decided to keep the champions, because obviously Dropkicks have stripped them. I know other companies have stripped in places. So part of me was like, please, I don't want to lose these tag belts, because there's so much cool stuff coming up. That sort of we've been told, this is going to happen. So I'm happy that people are sticking to plans that they've said.
Yeah, that's really cool. And we spoke a bit about kind of how you got to know Jack at the very beginning of the rebellion. But have you both got similar kind of philosophies as far as pro wrestling are concerned, and what a good tag team should do or should be, or how a good match should be constructed? Do you have kind of very similar thoughts on that, or is it kind of like opposites attract? Tell me a bit about that side of your relationship with Jack.
It's an odd one. Like, opposites attract is definitely one thing, because I always say I can tell if someone's met Toreno first, because they expect me to be more like Toreno, and then they're always taken back that I'm like more chill. I'd say I'm the more chill one. But I don't think people get the friendship, but I mean, like my best friend. So it's so strange. Like I'm sure like people that knew Jack before, like, why are you friends with him? Like when they meet me. But as far as wrestling goes, we're pretty similar. We'll send each other clips of stuff that was, this look really cool, or we wrote our list of teams we want to work, and they pretty much mirrored up. We trained at the same place, we trained under the same people, so our sort of idea of match structure is pretty similar. But then also, like Jack always says that I agree with him, like I'll come up with some really cool ideas of like moves and stuff and like how to do them, but then Jack will come up with really clever ways of getting them into the match. Like I'll come up to him and it's like, let's do this, this, and this, and he's like, oh cool, how are we going to get into it? I'm like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, and then he'll come up with something. He'll somehow come up with this genius way of getting it into the match. So it's sort of like it's perfect. It works on so many levels. Like tagging with Jack.
That's really cool. That's really cool. And I'm always fascinated as far as tag teams are concerned and tag matches, how you kind of develop the match and, you know, especially from one tag team to another. And yeah, it's really interesting now that you've kind of said that. Take us all the way back to when you were a young wrestling fan. And I'm presuming that you have been a wrestling fan for most of your life. But do you remember when you first kind of came across pro wrestling, and what sort of impression did it have on you when you were growing up?
Yes, the first time I ever saw anything wrestling related, I always think I was quite like late getting into it because I'm 23, and I started watching it in 2008. I remember it was like Christmas. You know when at schools you can bring toys in?
Yeah.
Some kid brought a wrestling annual in, and I remember the first person I ever saw was Jeff Hardy. I think I've probably told this on people like listen to this, they're like, we know. But I saw Jeff Hardy in a wrestling annual, and I started watching wrestling, and I loved Jeff Hardy so much that when he left, I stopped watching. And then I started watching again the Raw after Mania, where it was Rock and Cena 2.
Yes.
So I missed all the cool CM Punk stuff. I missed The Rock coming back. So as bad as it gets, I never stop watching, because as soon as I stop watching, it's going to get really good. That's my theory. So
yeah, I get that. I mean, I had a spell during the early 2000s where I stopped watching it and then came back, and I was fortunate enough to kind of see the CM Punk explosion around 2011 and onwards. But you came back at a good time. You came back at a very good time, and you kind of rejoined it just before Daniel Bryan had his kind of like cool run. So that was a pretty cool time to come back into it anyway, definitely. And do you get much of a chance now? I know that you're a very busy person. You've got a young family. You're busy with your work and wrestling. But do you ever get time to sit down and relax and watch much pro wrestling yourself? At the moment, I'm guessing on TV. But if so, what sort of wrestling do you enjoy watching at the moment?
The main time and this is 100% honest, the main time I watch wrestling is if like Lando comes over, and we will find sometimes not the best matches and watch them, which is quite fun to do. And to be fair, I'm in most of them. You know, that we watch. No, but like I watch that. People send me clips. I try my best to keep up with New Japan if I can. I really I watch that. That's not the main one I'd watch, as in for pure fan sort of thing. Obviously, like some of the boys in the Dropkicks group chat, we do like this whole sweepstake sort of thing on the WWE pay-per-views. So sometimes I'll watch along and just I know I always lose. I'm rubbish. I can't predict anything. So that's sort of it. My son loves wrestling, but as in he loves wrestling. Like somehow he goes to me, oh, can we watch The Undertaker versus Edge? I was like, you wasn't born. You were, you know what I mean? Like, I was like, how do you know about that? Or, he knows everyone. Like he's got wrestling figures downstairs that like were mine when I was a kid, and he knows all their names. Like he's telling my mum was around the other day, and he's like, this one's Finley, and this is the Great Khali, and I'm like, you were born in 2014. Like, how do you know all these people? So I've only watched wrestling with Jacob, so that's Jacob and Lando. That's my sort of answer to that.
What does Jacob, your kind of 6-year-old son, what does he think about his dad being a pro wrestler then? Is he impressed by that, or does he not realise that you're a pro wrestler?
Yeah, I mean he's come to a couple shows. He's come to a couple shows and he watched like the ones that we run. He's there. I think he thinks it's cool. Like he's always like, I'm gonna come to training. He wants to be a wrestler. My little girl who's 2, she'll start whenever wrestling or any like even if I'm not watching UFC, she thinks it's wrestling, so she'll start chanting like "Daddy" at the TV, which is quite cute. But yeah, he's crazy into it, and it is cool seeing him like watch it. But if I have a match and I lose, I have to try and sneak away of going to see him and tell him I'm okay afterwards. for the few shows he's been to, and if I lose, I have to go tell him I was like, that's cool. I'm cool. I'll let him win.
Yeah. and before we kind of get into your wanting to become a pro wrestler and training at Dropkicks and all that, did you have a bit of a sporting background before pro wrestling? Because I mean, I've seen quite a few of your matches, and looking at your kind of ring style, you're very athletic, very agile. Did that stem from a sporting past?
Yeah, I mean, I was a high jumper and a pole vaulter
right.
I done it at school, and then I like breezed through like district sports. Didn't have to try it. And I when I was 15, I think the highest ranking I got when I was 15, I was 11th for high jump in the country, which was quite cool. But I've been this tall since I was like 15, and that's why I stopped. Even though I stopped growing when I was like 15, 16, but right. I was lucky I got this tall. But then everyone caught up to me, and I was the shortest high jumper after a while. So I done that. I done pole vault. I got injured, and that's when I started looking to try and find something else, and that's how I found wrestling.
Right.
Because with athletics, you have to have all your medical checks, and you have to you have to pay for membership and clubs and sign up. And I had this really crazy coach that was like on it for like so I didn't want. It was honestly, I was looking for something that wasn't going to be so in your face, and so this massive part of my life, and ended up finding the complete opposite of something that just took over my life.
Yeah.
When I found wrestling, because initially it was just I'll try this as a little bit of fun away from athletics, because it was boring me, because I didn't like the pressure I had there, like athletics. But yeah, so that's how I tried wrestling in the end.
Yeah, and you said you did a bit of training a few months before you found Dropkicks. How did you come across Dropkicks then? Because as you still train there now, you still perform with Dropkicks, and so that's become a big part of your career. How did you come across those guys?
So we back up to like how I first got even those few like random sessions. So I was working behind a bar in a strip club. That's why so as you do.
As you do, yeah.
And someone come in that was a wrestler. I won't say their name. Someone come in who was a wrestler, and they was like just chatting about it, and the guy that owns the bar was like just talking to him, and we always watched. He was one of the people that I watched wrestling with, right. And he was like, "Oh, like this guy's a wrestler," and so I was chatting with him, and I was like, "Oh," he's like, "Oh, you should come down and try it," and I was like, "I don't know," and then the guy who owns the bar was like, "Yeah, we'll go," and he sort of like really started hyping up. I was like, "Yeah, we'll be sick," and like this, and he was like, I was like, "Okay, yeah, fine, we'll go." And then we went to go, and then he pulled out last minute. So I went by myself. And then he's like, "Oh, come next week. I'll come next week." And it's been 4.5 years, and he's never been to a training session. But so I ended up going. I trained for a bit. Things didn't work out. I just through busy schedule. It's quite far away. The training was like on and off. It wasn't always there. And then the last ever training session I went there, someone from Dropkicks was there. And that was the last session. The whole like training, it got cancelled. The guy running it was just like, "Oh no, I'm done. I'm not doing training anymore. Just sorry boys, I can't do it." And then luckily Brad Beck was there, who was like a Dropkicks guy, and he was like, "Oh well, there's Dropkicks in Purfleet on Sunday." I'm like, "In Purfleet, 10 minutes from my house, and I'm driving all this way every week, and there's somewhere like 10 minutes." So that's how I ended up going Dropkicks, and yeah, I've just been there since. I trained at Lucha a little bit, but like a tiny bit. This year, me and Jack, our whole thing for when everything's back is training wherever we can. There's more places. Also, I work in London now, so it's easier for me to get to these London training places. So I'll be more spread out.
Yeah. So you've trained at Dropkicks, you've trained at Lucha. Any other kind of training schools you'd like to go to in the future and kind of learn new things, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm willing for anything. I want to go and train by as many different people as I can.
Yeah.
Obviously, I coach as well, so that's something I really love doing. So I'm the coach at Dropkicks, and I coach the RCWA juniors.
Right.
So that's something I'm passionate about doing. I like that. That's a lot of fun.
Cool.
Working with people.
And tell us about your first match then, Taylor, because Tell us who it was against. What can you remember? Were your nerves? Were there nerves before the match? Did it go to plan? What can you remember about your first match? Because it's either a really, really good memory about your debut or a really, really terrible memory. My experience of interviewing wrestlers. Which way did it swing with you?
So I have like two sort of weird stories when it comes to like first matches. The first one is my wrestling gear, like what I wore. So I only ever watched WWE. Like I never watched anything else. TNA, New Japan, nothing before I got into wrestling. So I was told, okay, you're going to have a debut next month, sort of thing. I was like, okay, cool, get some gear. My wrestling gear was some running tights that I had from Athletics. I bought some basketball sleeves and blue tape because the running tights had blue on them. They were black and blue. And I bought some real crappy black and blue kick pads. And gloves, like black gloves, because I don't know why. And obviously my name obviously is my actual name's like starts with like AJ.
Yeah.
Like my dad, I've been called AJ my whole life. My dad calls me AJ. So I was like, oh well, my surname's Simpson. I'm gonna be AJ Simpson. How cool and original is that? And I'm gonna wear black and blue in these gloves, and I'm ready to go out. And someone goes up to me and goes, "Why are you dressed like AJ Styles?" And I was like, "Who? Who's that?" You know, I had no idea who he was. And then last minute, I'm like scrambling backstage. I'm like, someone tell the MC, do not announce me. Just change my name, call me anything else. Because someone like got their phone up. Was like, this guy, you know. I think he might have been. He must have been in New Japan at the time.
Right.
Yeah. So he was like, yeah. So I was like, change it. And I was more stressed about that. And I think that helped because we were stressed about that and worrying that I just looked like a div. Who didn't know who AJ Styles was. It made me relax about the match in my head. So I'd gone over it enough that I could then, because that's something I always do in a match. I'll go over it. 5 minutes before the match, just nothing. Just think about something else, do something else. And then one last time throw over the curtain and then go.
Yeah.
But I think because I was stressing out, that gave me that 5 minutes of just like, don't think about it, because don't overthink it, just do it. So that was my first ever match. That was a gauntlet against Mark Hendry, who trained me. It's like 5 minutes. The worst springboard crossbody thing you've ever seen. And a monkey flip. That's all I can remember.
Cool. And was you Taylor Essex in your first match, or when did the Taylor Essex name and gimmick come about? Was it fairly early on?
So I was one of the younger ones at Dropkicks when I started. So I was 18. There was like the kids who were like 14, and then there was me, and then there was like the older guys. And they were always like winding me up, saying like, "Oh, you're a proper Essex boy. You're like, I'm the most, in the like the blonde sort of sense of the word, like dumb, if you know what I mean, like that sort of blonde." So they were like the Joey Essex jokes, right? How he was like bigger back then.
Yeah.
And there's like that, and then I really like Tyler Breeze. So the Tyler turned to Taylor, and the Essex is from the Joey Essex. But then the character completely is not that anymore. Like, I had the word ream like on my leg when I started, and now I'm all like black and like wearing black clothes, and my hair's all wet and grungy looking.
So if you had to describe the Taylor Essex character now, it's obviously a world away from a world of difference from when you first started. But how would you describe the Taylor Essex character or gimmick now then?
So it is me. I know it's very cliche. Oh, it's me turning up to 11, but like it is me. Hill Taylor Essex is me when my 2-year-old has woke me up on a Saturday at 6 a.m. wanting to watch Toy Story, and I'm just grumpy and just want to shout at everyone.
Yeah.
And babyface me is just like me and my mates. Like, I'm just chill. I'm just happy to have a good time. Like, I'm, like piss takey with people. Like, it's sort of like more cheeky rather than, you know what I mean? So I always feel like you it's so easy to, if you play something as cheeky, you can get away with doing the exact same like stuff. But if you play it as cheeky, it's babyface. If you play it as a dick, it's a heel. It's the same thing. It's just depending on how you flip it. That's how I try and feel with it. I'm not like a over the top character sort of person. So I feel like in compared to other wrestlers, I feel like I'm quite quiet.
You definitely come across very confident in all of your matches and very confident persona in the ring. So you're doing something right, definitely. Yeah, but let's talk a bit about probably something you are a bit more confident in, and that's your kind of your move set and your in-ring style. You mentioned earlier that you were kind of a big fan of Jeff Hardy. I can kind of see that in some of your moves and some of your characteristics, but talk to me about your ring style and your kind of some of your moves. For me, from what I've seen of your matches, you know, you're quite high octane. There's a lot of fast pace in your matches, a lot of innovative moves as well, I have to say, a lot of innovation there. But talk to me about your style and any influences behind it.
So when I started, I always wanted to, because obviously once I'd worked out who AJ Styles was, you know, I looked into people like that. I wanted to be a high flyer because of high jump. I did high jump and I thought, oh, I could probably do this. And then I realized I can't go backwards. I can't, I don't know why, it's like a mental block, backflip stuff. But so I really wanted to be a high flyer at first. And then it sort of molded, and all my friends in wrestling are high flyers. Like, Toreno annoys me more than anyone when it comes to this, because at least you see Lando practicing constantly all the flips, and you see Newman practicing all the flips. But Toreno will just be like, "Oh, I'm going to try this today," and just does it perfectly.
Nails it straight away.
And
Nothing
it
more
frustrates
annoying.
me. You have no idea how much it frustrates me. Like, if there's any video of you see him warming up and he does some crazy flip, you look in the background, there's me just like, just every. Now, and obviously, like I said, my friends are the crazy high flyers, so I gave up trying to keep up with them. So I was like, I'll base everything. It's just so it's so hard to describe it, because I feel like I try to take a bit from everything, because I don't want to just be like this. Oh, he's in this box, and there's nothing wrong with that, because if you are like those people I mentioned, they're the top of that. They're the top of that level. So if I can be a bit of everything, like a good all rounder, that's sort of my thing. And obviously, like, certain areas I'm trying to progress in, or I was before lockdown. Now I've had training session wise, I've been to Joe's house once in his ring, and he's got a ring in his garden. So that's my training for the last 6 months.
Yeah, but you know, having seen a lot of your matches, you know, you do mix it up a little bit. There is, you know, you do leave the mat, and you do kind of some fairly innovative offense. There's also some power moves in there as well. So you do kind of mix it up, and it kind of feels like you found your niche, found your style. But and also that goes alongside the Rebellion as well, because a lot of fantastic tag team offense between the two of you as well. But some really, really good stuff there. Very exciting tag team. Now, besides being the DOA tag team champions with Jack, of course, and World War Wrestling tag team champions, you're also a singles champion, the RFPW champion. Now, it's based in Trowbridge, isn't it, RFPW? And is that correct?
Yeah, so that's a show that sort of, he was like one of the guy that runs that was one of the first people to give me a chance, like, outside of my training school. So I always owe him that. And that's when I end up talking to him at the moment, trying to get those shows back, because the promoters from Holland, so it's very hard for everything to go on, and getting the other shows up and running again, trying to help him do something again, because the first one was a lot of fun. Hopefully get something else soon. Single stuff was, I had no intention of ever, like, I don't know if I mentioned, but I had no intention of being a tag team ever, because high jump, pole vault, it's just me, you know. So I was so used to singles competition always for stuff, but the tag team is, I love tag team stuff, but then also it's nice every now and again to come and do single stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's my thing. So yeah, Raging Falcon is, hopefully when everything gets back, there'll be some more update with that, and there'll be some more shows coming.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope so.
Champion a while now. So.
Yeah, I mean, Trowbridge is 5 minutes around the corner from me, so
really?
I'll have to drop in and see you on a few of them
definitely.
shows when they do get back up and running. So that's really, really cool. Let's talk about Triumph then, because besides being a successful tag team wrestler, a successful singles wrestler, holding numerous championships at the moment, I understand that you're also a promoter as well for Triumph. And I think there's a couple of names connected. I think yourself, Jack, you mentioned Sam off air. But tell us about Triumph and how it all came about, and kind of who came up with the idea to start a wrestling promotion.
So we found the venue. We found this venue. It was like 5 minutes from where I grew up. And I pitched it to people. Oh, would you want to use this venue? I found it. It'd be really cool. And people weren't really interested. Oh, it's too close to certain promotions. Not certain a certain promotion that is notorious for not liking people stepping on their toes.
Right.
And I was just like, no, it's sitting there. There's the days of territories is gone. In my opinion. You get shows like Frontline and WrestleGate in the same venue on the same day.
Yeah.
And they're working together. And I still argue with people about this now. I believe we can, if everyone works together, it'll be better for wrestling. That's my opinion. And so I was like, no, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I was like, we'll run it. I spoke to Sam, so Sam had talked to me about he's interested in starting a promotion. Obviously, everything I ever think or plan to do, I'd run by Jack anyway now. So Jack's like, yeah, I'm in, let's do it. And so that's how this started out. And we done this first show as sort of like we're going to do this, really put as much effort into it as we could, put the first one on. And I did, in my head, I had the idea of doing one show. I had the idea of doing one show just to be like, no, this place can draw, even with this other person trying to take away from us, or sabotage it. I was like, no, we're going to put the effort in, we're going to do this. And then the first one went so well, I was like, no, let's keep going. And then we got the belt, and then we had a second venue pop up, and we had things booked in, and now it's such a big thing that I want to keep building, and it's a big thing to me as well. I think it was giving people opportunity and trying to have matches that people haven't seen. I know everyone's trying to do that, but we done a training school. We done a show where we had a match where there's a person from Lucha, someone from Knuckle Lock, someone from SOS, Triple Threat, and was like, these people have never, as best of my knowledge, never been on the same shows, let alone in the same match. So let's chuck them all in there together. And I think the fact that we go to these places helps, because we see people from Harwich. We go to West London and we see people, or even up in Peterborough, we go up and do shows there, and sort of to bring everyone together to have this show that's different. Because even you look at certain shows in certain areas, they're the same sort of guys, where if we can get a card together and it all works out, price right, the price is right for travel and everything, have a nice sort of mashup of people and give people opportunity. So we've had some Dropkicks guys on that have never had external shows before, and it was nice to give them their first external non-training school show.
Well, my next question was going to be kind of, how does Triumph differ from other promotions? And you summed it up perfectly there, with giving people from different promotions, an opportunity, and kind of mixing it up with, a talent that might not ordinarily get on other shows or be visible in your neck of the woods. So you've summed it up perfectly there. But that's great. And in your kind of relatively short career, but 4.5 years, you've already proved yourself as a singles and a tag team wrestler. But who would you say has been some of your favourite or kind of best opponents, some of your best matches you've had so far? Because you've had some cracking matches against the likes of CJ Carter, Harry Mance, otherwise known as Forrest Hayes nowadays, and many, many others. But are there any matches in particular that really stand out to you as being some of your favourite or best matches, whether it be tag or singles? What would you say?
There's no rebellion without Hitset. For everything we've done, for everything we've been praised for, we couldn't have done it without the Hitset. And that was a last minute booking with them. It was supposed to be another team and they couldn't make it, so the Hitset were brought in, and from there we had, from literally having a hi, how are you, sort of high and by relationship with Roth and Kieran, to wrestling them once 3 times within 7 days. There's no rebellion about Hitset sort of thing. We owe them so much. Singles wise, CJ Carter was the one who brought my love of singles wrestling back. I was so like, it was one of those things. If I was told, "Oh, you're booked on a show," oh, great. When should I tell Jack to get there? And they'd go, "Oh no, it's singles." I'd be like, "Oh, well, I was okay, yeah, whatever." But then that match with CJ Carter sort of relit the spark of singles. I was like, I can do this, because he's amazing. So that's one. I've got a list on my phone that I want to have like singles and tags, and they're sort of just as big as each other now. Where before it was like 2 or 3 names in singles and every tag team on the other one. So
yeah, and what about? I mean, you've wrestled for tons of promotions over the last 4.5 years. I mean, to name a few, I mean, DOA, WrestleForce, World War Wrestling, RFPW, Dropkicks, DNA, SOS, and so many more that I've failed to mention. But are there any promotions that you'd like to work for in the future? Any kind of promotions that you kind of have your eye on? Any promotions you want to kind of appear on sometime? Maybe this year or next year, in the next couple of years, what would you say to them?
I mean, I think everyone's got the obviously like the top ones. Everyone wants a progress match, Yeah, I have sort of there's a venue I want to go back to, which would be really cool, which is the Unit 9 nightclub. I done like one show there for RFPW, and the crowd was I loved working there. That was a lot of fun. Get back in the Resgal again. The Resgal was insane. We done one show there for Wrestle League. Promotions wise, I want to wrestle everywhere I can. Me and Jack have said our plan is to get as busy as possible when we're back, and maybe explore some more up north. That'll be fun. Because we haven't been much. Obviously, we haven't been higher than like Peterborough, I'd say.
Right.
So that's sort of so more promotions like that. Obviously, yeah, Progress is the big one. I'd love to do that. Again, because that was sort of my, other than WWE, that was my first sort of look at indie wrestling, and sort of loved that. Loved everything Progress ever put out, sort of thing. So that is a big goal for me.
Yeah, and speaking of WWE and indie wrestling, I mean, a good mix of that at the moment is NXT UK, and that's kind of coming back in September.
Yeah.
But is that kind of a bit of a pipe dream for yourself and Jack, or maybe yourself as the singles, to maybe get a chance with NXT UK somewhere down the line, or does that not interest you?
Oh, of course, no. I'd love to. I mean, it's mad to think when I first started training, Howley had just come back, because Howley's a Dropkicks guy. Like originally, Howley's a Dropkicks guy. And he'd just come back from Canada training with Lance Storm, and I remember it was so strange. I drove to a WrestleForce show. I drove Howley next to me and Candy Floss in the back, and I'm just driving. And I said this, I was like, they're both signed. You know what I mean? Like, they're both signed now. I was like, and just to think, like, all the shows that I'd done, like talking to Howley, like picking his brains and stuff. And to see him there is insane. Like, he's so good, and if anyone deserves it, it's him and Sammy. So it's definitely a dream to get on shows like that. But yeah, and also I think it's so great because it shows that people can. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, people, you can do it now. So why not go for it?
Yeah, that dream is a bit more attainable now, isn't it, in the UK? But I've got some questions now. I've got one question here from a certain Brett Meadows. So Brett got in touch with us with a few questions, but one question I will ask. It's a slightly controversial question. Answer this however you wish. But
Okay.
Who's the Sean and who's the Marty of the Rebellion? So who's the Shawn Michaels and who's the Marty Jannetty? Just answer it however you want. But Brett has decided to ask that one.
Oh, of course he did.
Thanks, Brett.
I'd like to think it changes between shows now. At first, I was definitely the Marty, 100%. And again, Brett is someone that I can't put over enough because Brett's the sort of person that if you say, "Can I have feedback?" he's the first person to be like, "That was shit." But he's also the first person to come up to you backstage and be like, "Well done, good job."
Yeah.
And I'd had a few of those. That wasn't great, mate, from him. And then for that to turn into giving us tag belts, first ever tag champions. And for him saying to me, like, "Oh, good choice. Jack's going to help you out." And then other times that he's coming up to me, he's like, "Oh, well done." Like, so yeah, that's your answer. I'd like to think it changes between shows, but it was definitely me at first.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you for your question there, Brett. And of course, we had Brett on the Wrestling with Johners podcast a few weeks ago. Go back and check that out in the archives. Final question for me then. So you mentioned that you were kind of on a show a week or so ago. Any other planned appearances from yourself? Any other planned performances or wrestling shows that we can see from you between now and the end of the year? Anything kind of on the cards for Taylor Essex?
Yeah, so I got the message just now, popped up saying that I'm happy to promote it, and it's not a secret now. Yeah, myself and Jack are going to be on some tapings for EWA, which is a great promotion up in High Wycombe. I believe on the hits that's on there, they got Jody Flash, they got Bullet, I believe Damien will be there. So like, there's really good card that they're putting together up there for some tapings, and if anyone can make a no fan show look good, it's them. The production's insane as it is. Like, sometimes I walk out, even as a heel, I'm trying to look angry, and I walk out, I'm like, wow, look at it. I sort of have a step back and look at the sort of production that these guys set up. So I'm really looking forward to that. Getting that message the other day I was so happy. I said to my girlfriend, I was like, I get to go back there, so that's gonna be cool. Other than that, no, I haven't got much in. Obviously, no one has. If we, people, I've heard there's some talks of people like doing like filming stuff and putting it out. With Triumph we was trying to find a way of doing something, and we're still looking into that. Like, every day in our group chat, someone's messaging an idea of, oh, maybe we could do it like this. So other people, again, I don't really want to be saying people's ideas because nothing's set in stone. No. But there are I know there are a couple promotions that have had the idea of doing some form of show, or just to get some content out for people. Yeah. And to everyone who's planning that, I'd happily do it. I'll wear my face mask. I'll social distance. I'll do everything.
There are some promotions that are, steadily kind of introducing fans with outdoor shows, more prevalent in America, of course, not so much in the UK, but I know TNT Extreme, I know they're planning to do some things around Halloween weekend. I mean, a very popular thing at the moment, certainly with the bigger promotions over in the States, is cinematic matches. Now, would you be interested in being in a cinematic match, or maybe is it ever crossed your mind to do something like that for Triumph, just try and get some content out there?
It hasn't crossed my mind, but that sounds fun. I mean, I know, like, Vaughan, I don't know if you know Vaughan Vertigo over in Canada. He's been doing his whole promotion that he's sort of running is just backyarding. But they've done theirs is all cinematic and crazy, and that's looking really fun. So I'd love to do something like that. Again, anything that gets me back to wrestling, I'd be up for doing it. As far as Triumph, that could work. We've got some stories that we want to continue, and other things I'm thinking, clean slate, start again with other things. But it's definitely something to look into. I'm just trying to, my main thing is I want it to all be the right thing to do at the moment. I don't want to be selfish and be like, oh, let's just do this show because we got to stick to these social distancing rules and everything. But like I said, no, I've noticed on the train now, going up to London, people are relaxing with it, which may be a good thing, may not be a good thing, but playing everything by ear. But my gear's packed and I'm ready to go the second I get the call, sort of thing.
That's great news. Yeah, that is. So we're pretty much at the end of the interview, Taylor. An opportunity for you to throw out any social media handles. So where can we find you on Twitter, Instagram, if you've got a Facebook page, and if you've got any merchandise as well, where can we find your merch?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Taylor_Essex450. I believe my Facebook is just Taylor Essex. YouTube is Taylor Essex, I believe. I think YouTube is just Taylor Essex, and Twitter is Taylor. I think it's just Taylor_Essex. So
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's correct. And what we'll do is we'll make sure that all of them links are added to the description of this podcast. Just click into the description and you can kind of click on any of those and say hi to Taylor and find out what he's up to, interact with him and find out when he's going to be wrestling next. But Taylor Essex, it's been brilliant having you on the Wrestling with Johners podcast, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. And anyone wants one of these, drop me a message.
Your merchandise. I was commenting off air that your logo is one of the best logos I've seen in a long time. So merchandise. Where can we find your merchandise if anybody's interested?
I haven't got an online store because I'm an old man when it comes to technology. You have no idea how much trouble setting up Skype was. So just message me. I've still got a bunch of these left. The long sleeves, Giant Killer shirts, the Rebellion shirts still as well. To be fair, I'll put them all on my socials later today. I'll put them on my stories and everything. So if people want to see it, and I'll put them up over the next few days.
Yeah.
So people can see it. Just drop me a message, and I've got stuff. So
there we go. Well, Taylor Essex, thank you so much once again for coming on the Wrestling with Johners podcast, and have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me.